I grew up as the middle of three sons in our suburban Massachusetts home. My older brother James was always the golden child in my mother's eyes, despite his increasingly troubling behavior over the years. My younger brother Kyle was the sensitive one who needed protection. I never imagined the depths of betrayal possible until that fateful Sunday dinner when we discovered James had been secretly dating Kyle's fiancée Allison for months behind everyone's back. The look on my mother's face wasn't shock or disappointment, but defensive justification. Before I continue with how our family fell apart that night, let me know where you're watching from today. If you've ever witnessed family betrayal, hit subscribe and share your thoughts below. The next part might explain why some wounds never fully heal. Growing up in Framingham, Massachusetts during the 90s, our family appeared picture perfect from the outside. Dad worked as an architect while Mom taught elementary school. 3 boys, each 2 years apart, meant our home buzzed with constant activity and occasional chaos. James, the oldest, cast a long shadow over Kyle and me from the beginning, standing 6'2" by high school with natural athletic ability and straight. As without seeming to study, James commanded attention everywhere. Football captain, debate team champion, prom king. He collected achievements effortlessly while collecting admirers just as easily. I occupied the complicated middle position, not as naturally gifted as James, but more responsible. Dad often said I had the strongest moral compass of the 3, though that meant little to Mom. I maintained solid B's, played baseball adequately, and developed a knack for smoothing over family conflicts. Dad and I shared a love for woodworking that created a special bond between us, spending weekends in his workshop building birdhouses and eventually furniture. Kyle, the youngest, possessed a gentle soul and artistic talent. Slender and thoughtful, he painted beautiful landscapes and wrote poetry that occasionally appeared in local publications. His sensitivity made him an easy target for James, whose teasing often crossed into cruelty that Mom conveniently overlooked. The favoritism toward James began early and only intensified over time. When I was 12, Mom found empty beer cans in the garage after James hosted friends. Dad suggested grounding him, but Mom laughed it off as normal teenage experimentation. When I accidentally broke a window with a baseball the following month, I lost my allowance for 6 weeks. During James' senior year, he crashed Dad's car after midnight, well past his curfew. The police report showed he had been drinking, but Mom somehow convinced Dad not to take away his college scholarship money as punishment. Her constant refrain became, "He just needs more understanding." Hess under so much pressure to succeed. Dad rarely challenged Mom on these matters. The few times he tried resulted in days of cold silence and separate sleeping arrangements. Eventually, he learned to express his disagreements privately to me during our workshop sessions, sighing as he said, "Your mother has her blind spots. We all do. Someday shall see more clearly." The pattern continued through college. James attended Boston College on a partial athletic scholarship, but stories of his partying and academic probation reached home. Mom always had an explanation. The professors were too strict. His teammates were bad influences. The administration had unreasonable expectations. Meanwhile, Kyle flourished at Massachusetts College of Art and Design, finding his tribe among fellow creatives. I completed my business degree at Northeastern and started a marketing firm with 2 college friends, achieving modest success by my late 20s. Everything changed when Kyle met Allison during his senior year. She worked night shifts at Massachusetts General Hospital while completing her nursing degree. Their connection was immediate and genuine. Allison balanced Kyle's artistic temperament with practical compassion. She encouraged his painting while helping him develop a business plan for his own gallery. The first time Kyle brought Allison to Sunday dinner, I noticed something concerning. James, home between jobs again at 31, watched Allison with unusual intensity. Mom naturally praised everything James said and laughed too loudly at his jokes, while Allison politely engaged but kept her attention on Kyle. When Kyle announced their engagement after 18 months of dating, the family rejoiced. Dad immediately offered to help with wedding costs. Mom began collecting bridal magazines and venue brochures. I agreed to be best man, promising Kyle an unforgettable bachelor weekend. Only James' reaction seemed off. He congratulated Kyle with a one-armed hug that looked performative rather than genuine. His eyes followed Allison around the room all evening. When I asked him later what he thought about the engagement, he shrugged and said, "Good for him. She's definitely a catch." Something in his tone raised alarm bells I should have heeded more carefully. The engagement celebration took place at my parents' house 3 months later. Extended family and friends filled the backyard, where Dad had strung white lights through the maple trees. Kyle beamed with pride, introducing Allison to relatives, while she showed off her modest diamond ring. Throughout the evening, I noticed James inserting himself between the couple repeatedly. He offered to refill Allison's drink 4 times. He reminisced about Kyle as a child in ways that seemed designed to embarrass rather than endear. During the toast, James' speech lingered uncomfortably on Allison's beauty rather than the couple's connection. After most guests departed, I found James and Allison alone by the garden. They stood unusually close, his hand briefly touching her lower back before dropping away when they noticed me. Allison quickly mentioned needing to find Kyle and hurried inside. I confronted James directly. "Do you think that's appropriate? She's marrying our brother." He laughed dismissively. "Don't be dramatic, Matt. We're going to be family. I'm just being friendly." The next morning, I shared my concerns with Mom while helping clean up. Instead of listening, she immediately became defensive. "James is trying to welcome Allison to the family. You always assume the worst about him. Maybe you're jealous that Kyle found someone before you did." Her dismissal stung, but I decided to keep a closer eye on the situation rather than create family drama without concrete evidence. Over the next few weeks, Kyle mentioned that Allison seemed distracted during their wedding planning sessions. She postponed cake tastings twice and showed little interest in venue options. When I asked Kyle if everything was okay between them, he confessed his worries. "I don't know, Matt. She says everything's fine, but something feels different. She works extra shifts, checks her phone constantly, and gets defensive when I ask simple questions about her day." My suspicions grew when Mom mentioned that James had generously offered to help Allison research wedding vendors since Kyle was busy with a major art commission. "I don't know why you can't be supportive like James," she added. Hess really stepping up for his brother. The comment made my stomach turn. James had never stepped up for anyone but himself. During Sunday dinner the following week, I noticed Allison arrive 20 minutes before Kyle, claiming she wanted to help Mom with preparations. Instead, she disappeared upstairs where James was supposedly napping. When they both returned downstairs, Allison's lipstick looked freshly applied, and James wore a different shirt than earlier. Kyle seemed oblivious, exhausted from working long hours on his commission. Dad, however, caught my eye across the table, his expression confirming my fears. Later, he pulled me aside in his workshop and whispered, "Keep an eye on them. I hope I'm wrong." The situation deteriorated when Kyle called me late one night, his voice breaking. "Allison wants to postpone the wedding. She says she needs space to think about our future." What does that even mean, Matt? I invited him over, immediately offering the spare bedroom in my apartment. As he fell asleep on my couch, emotionally drained, his phone lit up with a text from Allison. "I'm sorry. I need to figure some things out. Please don't tell your family about this yet." The next morning, I drove to Kyle's apartment to collect some clothes for him. Using the spare key Head given me months ago, I entered to find James sitting at the kitchen table, coffee mug in hand, wearing only boxers and a t-shirt. "What the hell are you doing here?" I demanded. James didn't even look embarrassed. "Where's Kyle?" devastated. "No thanks to you. How could you do this to your own brother? You don't understand the connection Allison and I have. She was going to break it off with him anyway. I just happened to be there for her." His casual cruelty left me speechless. I gathered Kyle's clothes and art supplies, warning James to be gone when I returned. Later that day, I called Allison directly. She answered on the first ring, her voice tense. "Is Kyle okay?" "No, it's not okay." "How could he be?" "Are you seriously involved with James?" After a long pause, she admitted, "I never meant for this to happen, Matt. James understands me in ways Kyle never could. I tried fighting my feelings, but does Kyle deserve this? After everything he's done for you, am going to end things properly with Kyle tomorrow, she promised. Please don't tell him about James yet. Let me explain things my way. Against my better judgment, I agreed to give her 24 hours, not realizing how much more damage that time would allow. The next evening, I arrived home to find Kyle sitting in darkness, staring at his phone. Without speaking, he handed it to me. On the screen was a social media post from a mutual friend showing James and Allison kissing at a restaurant across town. The caption read, "Surprised to see these two together. Love is complicated." My heart sank. I sat beside Kyle, placing my hand on his shoulder. "I'm so sorry. I just found out yesterday." Kyle looked up with red-rimmed eyes. "You knew I found James at your apartment yesterday morning. I made Allison promise to tell you herself." "I never thought Shed be so careless. How long do you think it's been going on?" he asked, voice hollow. "I don't know, but we need to confront them both, and Mom needs to see who her precious firstborn really is." Kyle nodded slowly. "Sunday dinner tomorrow. Everyone will be there." I spent the night helping Kyle process his emotions, which cycled from devastating sadness to white-hot anger. We agreed to approach the situation calmly, presenting the evidence without causing a scene. Kyle deserved closure with dignity. Sunday arrived with ominous storm clouds matching our mood. Kyle and I arrived early, informing Dad about our discovery. The color drained from his face as he whispered, "I feared this might happen." "Your mother won't want to believe it." Mom bustled around the kitchen, humming cheerfully. She mentioned that James was bringing a surprise guest for dinner, but wouldn't say who. Kyle and I exchanged knowing glances. At precisely 6 o'clock, the doorbell rang. James entered with Allison clinging to his arm. The audacity stunned us all into momentary silence. Kyle stood frozen in the living room entryway, staring at the woman Hod worn his engagement ring just days earlier. Mom broke the silence with appalling cheerfulness. "What a lovely surprise, Allison dear. I didn't know you were coming with James today." Before Allison could respond, Kyle stepped forward, holding up his phone with the damning photo displayed. "Would someone care to explain this?" James didn't flinch. "I was going to tell you today. Allison and I have feelings for each other. We didn't plan this, but you can't control who you fall for." Allison at least had the decency to look ashamed. "Kyle, I am truly sorry. I never wanted to hurt you." Kyle turned to our mother. "Did you know about this?" Mom glanced nervously between her sons. "Know what exactly? That your perfect firstborn has been sleeping with my fiancée behind my back for God knows how long." Mom immediately shifted to defense mode. "Watch your tone, Kyle. I'm sure there's a reasonable explanation. James wouldn't deliberately hurt you." The scene exploded from there. Kyle revealed that Allison had been distant for months. James admitted their affair had started 3 months ago during wedding planning sessions Mom had encouraged. Dad finally found his voice, demanding James leave immediately. Instead of showing remorse, James became defensive. If their relationship was so solid, this wouldn't have happened. Maybe Kyle should ask himself why his fiancée was so easily swayed. Mom unbelievably nodded along. Perhaps there were issues in the relationship we didn't know about. Allison, finding unexpected support from my mother, grew bolder. "Kyle, I care about you, but with James it's different. It's more passionate, more real." Kyle, who rarely raised his voice, roared with pain. "We were planning our lives together. We talked about children. How could you both betray me like this?" James crossed his arms. "It just happened. You need to move on." Mom stepped between them, facing Kyle rather than James. "You need to calm down. Shouting won't solve anything. These things happen in relationships." That's when Kyle broke completely. His knees buckled as 18 months of love and trust shattered. I caught him before he hit the floor, helping him to the couch. Dad brought him water while shooting daggers at James with his eyes. Mom continued her unconscionable defense. "James didn't mean to hurt anyone. Hess always been sensitive to others' feelings. Maybe this is for the best before you made a commitment that wasn't right." I couldn't contain my rage any longer. "Are you serious right now? Your son is heartbroken because his brother and fiancé betrayed him in the worst possible way, and you're defending James again." Dad finally found his courage. Margaret, stop this. What James did is unforgivable. If you can't see that, you're as much to blame as he is. Mom recoiled as if slapped. How dare you? I'm trying to keep this family together. Allison announced she was leaving with James, pausing only to tell Kyle, return your ring tomorrow. It's best we make this a clean break. The ultimate cruelty came when Kyle, through tears, asked why. Allison looked him straight in the eyes and said, James is going places. Hez, ambitious, confident. With your art career, I just couldn't see the stable future I want. As they walked out, Kyle rushed to the bathroom. The sound of retching, followed by alarming silence, sent me running after him. I found him staring at an open bottle of my mother's prescription pills. I grabbed the bottle from his hand. Not like this, Kyle. They're not worth it. He collapsed into my arms, sobbing. My whole future, Matt. Everything I planned. Gone. When we returned to the living room, Mom was tidying up as if nothing significant had happened. She glanced at Kyle and had the audacity to say, You'll find someone else, dear. First relationships rarely last anyway. Dad slammed his hand on the table. Enough, Margaret. Do you not see what your precious James has done? But Mom was too far gone in her delusion. James has always known what he wants and goes after it. That's why he's successful. Hez 31 unemployed and living at home, I shouted. What success are you talking about? That night marked the end of our family as we knew it. The foundation cracked beyond repair, revealing the rotted support beams that had been weakening for years. In the terrible silence following James and Allison's departure, I made a decision that would permanently alter our family dynamics. Kyle could not stay in that house with our mother minimizing his pain and essentially blaming him for his own betrayal. Come home with me, I told him quietly. You can stay as long as you need. Dad nodded in agreement, helping gather Kyle's belongings, while Mom protested weakly. Hez, overreacting. Hell, feel better after a good night's sleep. Dad surprised us both by responding firmly, No, Margaret. This isn't something a good night's sleep will fix. Your son needs space from this house, and from you. At my apartment, I helped Kyle settle into my spare bedroom, making sure he took some food and water before falling into exhausted sleep. Then I made 3 important calls. First, I contacted Kyle's art dealer, explaining that he needed to postpone his upcoming exhibition due to a family emergency. The dealer, understanding the importance of mental health, agreed without hesitation. Next, I called our cousin Sarah, a therapist in private practice. She promised to see Kyle within 2 days and recommended resources for immediate support. Finally, I called Dad, who answered on the first ring. How is he physically safe for now, but destroyed emotionally? Dad, this can't continue. Mom's enabling of James has gone too far. Dad sighed heavily. I know. I've been a coward for too many years. I should have stood up to her long ago. We need to present a united front. Kyle needs to know not everyone in this family thinks what happened is acceptable. The next morning, Kyle emerged from the bedroom hollow-eyed, but calmer. I took the day off work to help him begin the painful process of untangling his life from Allison's. We canceled wedding vendors, notified close friends about the broken engagement, and arranged for Kyle to sublease his apartment temporarily since Allison had already removed her belongings. 3 days later, Mom showed up unannounced at my door, clutching a casserole dish. I brought Kyle's favorite lasagna. Is he here? I blocked the doorway. Yes, but he doesn't want to see you right now. Don't be ridiculous. I'm his mother. She attempted to push past me. Mom, stop. You need to understand something. Your defense of James after what he did has damaged your relationship with Kyle in ways that might never heal. Her expression hardened. Families forgive each other. James made a mistake. A mistake. He deliberately pursued his brother's fiancée for months. And instead of holding him accountable, you defended him like you've done his entire life. Mom set down the lasagna. When you have children, you'll understand a mother's love is unconditional. Maybe some love should have conditions like basic human decency toward your own family. Kyle deserves better than what is gotten from both of you. The conversation ended with Mom leaving in tears, unable to recognize her role in the catastrophe. 2 weeks later, I confronted James directly at our parents' house, finding him lounging by the pool while Mom prepared lunch. The entitled smirk vanished from his face when he saw me. "Kyle wants his great-grandfather's pocket watch back," I said coldly. "The one he loaned you for good luck at your job interview last year." James shrugged. "Tell him to come get it himself." "That's not happening. You destroyed him. The least you can do is return his property." James leaned forward. How was I supposed to know? His relationship was so fragile. If she really loved him. I cut him off. "She shares the blame, but you're his brother." That should have meant something. Our confrontation escalated until James stood abruptly. "It's not my fault Kyle can't keep a woman satisfied. Allison came to me because she needed more than he could give her." Something snapped inside me. Decades of watching James escape consequences of seeing him hurt others without repercussion culminated in this moment. I grabbed his shirt collar, pulling him close. "Listen carefully. Kyle is rebuilding his life without either of you. If you contact him, if you cause him any more pain, you will answer to me. And unlike our mother, I see you exactly for what you are." Mom appeared on the patio, horrified. "Matthew, let go of your brother," I released James but maintained eye contact. "The family gathering next month for Dad's birthday, Kyle and I won't attend if he's here." "Dad agrees." "Your choice." Mom gasped. "You can't do that. Your father would never." "Call him and ask. For once in his life, Dad is choosing his other sons." I left with Kyle's pocket watch and the satisfaction of finally standing up to the toxic dynamic that had controlled our family for too long. Dad began visiting Kyle regularly at my apartment, bringing woodworking projects they could complete together. These small acts of creation became therapeutic, building something new from raw materials, mirroring Kyle's gradual reconstruction of his life. Within 6 months, Kyle found a studio space in a neighboring town and began painting again his work, taking on deeper emotional resonance. A local gallery owner recognized the power in his new pieces and offered him a featured exhibition. Dad attended the opening night without Mom, who refused to come without James. The exhibition proved successful beyond expectations, with several pieces selling to serious collectors. Kyle's healing journey wasn't linear. Some days, the pain resurfaced sharply, especially when he heard through mutual friends that Allison and James were still together, though apparently arguing frequently. But each setback proved temporary, each step forward more significant than the last. As for me, the experience transformed my understanding of family loyalty. Love without accountability isn't love at all, but a destructive force, masquerading as affection. Standing firm against James and Mom's behavior cost me one familial relationship, but strengthened 2 others beyond measure. 3 years passed, bringing significant changes to our fractured family. Kyle, after months of therapy and gradual healing, met Megan at his second major exhibition. She approached him genuinely interested in his artistic process rather than networking opportunities. Their connection developed slowly, built on honest communication and mutual respect. When Kyle introduced Megan to Dad and me, the contrast to his relationship with Allison became apparent. Kyle seemed truly himself with Megan, not trying to impress or accommodate, but genuinely sharing his authentic self. Dad flourished after finally establishing boundaries with Mom. They remained married, but led increasingly separate lives. He spent weekends with Kyle and me, helping expand my home workshop and teaching Megan traditional woodworking techniques that complemented her furniture design business. Mom made half-hearted attempts at reconciliation, always undermined by her refusal to acknowledge the real problems. Her invitations for family gatherings came with the assumption that we would simply forget the past without accountability or change. I maintained contact with her through occasional lunch meetings, where we carefully avoided discussing James. These meetings remained tense and superficial, but provided Dad some peace knowing his sons hadn't completely abandoned their mother. As for James and Allison, their relationship imploded spectacularly 18 months after they got together. According to Dad, Allison discovered James having an affair with his new boss's wife, creating a perfect storm of personal and professional destruction. James lost his job, and Allison finally experienced firsthand the betrayal shed inflicted on Kyle. In a move that demonstrated her complete lack of self-awareness, Allison attempted to contact Kyle during this crisis, leaving voicemails suggesting they meet for closure. Kyle wisely deleted the messages, without responding, recognizing the toxic pattern she represented. The true measure of healing came when Kyle proposed to Megan during a sunset hike on their first anniversary. He called me that evening, voice bright with genuine happiness. She said, "Yes, Matt. And this time it feels right for all the right reasons." Kyle's wedding took place in the sculpture garden of the art museum, where Head found his first commercial success. I stood proudly as his best man, while Megan was attended by her sister and closest friend. Dad walked Megan down the aisle after her father had passed away the previous year. Mom chose not to attend after learning that her condition for coming James' inclusion was firmly rejected. Instead, she sent a crystal vase with a note expressing her disappointment in our inability to forgive. The gift remained unopened, the note unread. During my best man speech, I avoided any mention of past heartbreak, focusing instead on the authentic love evident between Kyle and Megan. The small gathering of friends and family who truly supported them created an atmosphere of genuine celebration. Later, as Kyle and Megan prepared to leave for their honeymoon, he embraced me tightly. "You saved me, Matt. Not just from that night with the pills, but by showing me what real family loyalty means. I wouldn't be here without you." Those words healed something in me as well, confirming that standing firm against toxic behavior, even from family, was the right choice, despite the painful consequences. The most profound lesson from our family tragedy was that love should have boundaries. Unconditional love doesn't mean unconditional acceptance of harmful behavior. True love holds people accountable and demands growth. Mom remains trapped in her enabling relationship with James, who continues his pattern of using people and avoiding responsibility. Dad maintains limited contact with them while building a richer relationship with Kyle, Megan, and me. Our family could never be fully mended, but something new and healthier emerged from the broken pieces. A smaller family circle bound by authentic love rather than obligation or denial. If you've experienced family betrayal or toxic dynamics, I hope our story offers some validation. Standing for what's right often comes at a high cost, but creates space for genuine healing and new beginnings. Have you ever had to choose between family peace and doing what's right? Share your experience in the comments. And if this story resonated with you, please subscribe and share with someone who might need to hear that family loyalty should never require sacrificing your self-respect. Thank you for listening, and remember, sometimes the family we choose becomes more important than the family we're born into.